Hi guys, it's Mandy here. So, having heard now about the latest and greatest of Disney's disasters, the Snow White saga, yeah, I think I have a little something to say on this, considering Peter Dinklage now thinks he has the right to speak for the dwarf community completely, and he now is saying that because he thinks it's offensive to do to hire dwarves to play dwarf characters, he thinks no one should be allowed to play dwarves, except apparently one, according to Disney. Only one dwarf is allowed to play a dwarf. I just think it's incredible how he can be such a hypocrite. I mean, you know, he has made his success out of playing dwarf roles himself, and then he thinks he has the right to deny everyone else the right to play these roles. Personally, I would love to hear from other dwarves, you know. I mean, I have seen a video of another dwarf who voiced his opinion and said he's not particularly happy about Dinklage's hypocritical attitudes towards them, and it's absolutely ridiculous considering. It would be interesting to hear from other dwarves, you know. How about Warwick Davis? Let's ask Warwick Davis what he thinks about this. I mean, Warwick Davis has played many roles, including having to play dwarves himself. He's played leprechauns. He's played goblins in Harry Potter. He played a dwarf wizard in that. Of course, he made his debut. I think it was his debut in Star Wars, playing an Ewok. And then he did Marvin the robot. And you know, dwarves get a lot of opportunities, and for Dinklage to now say that they're not allowed to ever play dwarves in films because that's offensive. I'm sorry, does that mean we have to completely wipe history of any story that involves a dwarf because that's offensive? I'm sorry, was Dinklage's character in Game of Thrones not a dwarf? He was referred to in the book as a dwarf. Was the character that Dinklage played in the Chronicles of Narnia not a dwarf? He was a dwarf. He was a stereotypical dwarf in that. He had the beard, he had the attire. It was completely stereotypical. And he played opposite Warwick Davis in that. So are you telling me that Peter Dinklage has any right at all, considering his history of having played dwarves, stereotypical dwarf characters, that he has the right to deny every other dwarf the right to play dwarves? I'm sorry, no. You don't have the right because you have absolutely no ground to stand on. You yourself have done it. You have no right to deny anyone else that right. Look in the mirror before you open your mouth. You know, having said that about Peter Dinklage, the one thing that did sort of strike me very interestingly is the fact that, you know, having heard that soundbite of him saying he finds it very, he's not agreeing with it, let's just say. Having heard that soundbite, I have to say he doesn't sound particularly like he actually believes it. But if he does believe it, then all I can say is he's a hypocrite. Because, frankly, he has absolutely no right to dictate what other dwarfs should or shouldn't be offended by. And he has no right to deny them the right to play certain roles just because he feels a little bit offended. You know, if he doesn't want to take a dwarf role, that's up to him. But frankly, he's a hypocrite because of the fact that he has taken dwarf roles. He has taken roles where he has been referred to as a dwarf. So he has absolutely no leg to stand on when it comes to this argument. Also, guys, these pictures of Snow White are, aside from the dwarf thing, they are just genuinely hilarious. And I think it's just, a lot of people are saying it looks like a bunch of nobodies LARPing, and frankly, I agree. It does look like a bunch of nobodies LARPing. You know, I'm pretty sure fans of the Snow White film could make better costumes than this, with a fraction of the price of what these guys have probably spent on those costumes. I mean, it's absolutely astonishing. I mean, I personally would love to make fairy tale films. For a long time, I've actually been thinking of doing that, sort of, get some money together and then make an adaptation of some of the Grimm's fairy tales, because I personally would love to see an adaptation of the Grimm's fairy tales exactly as they're depicted, you know, with all the Grimm stuff in there. I would personally love to see an adaptation of that. See, if Disney had done that, that would have been so epic. Can you imagine if Disney had done live action adaptations of these stories, but not trying to copy the animation version, but try to actually do what the Grimm versions of the stories are, which is, you know, tell the dark stuff, the real dark stuff in the stories. You know, apparently in the original story of Snow White, the dwarves actually kill the queen in a pretty horrific manner. Apparently what they do is they make her wear red hot iron shoes, and she's meant to dance until she dies. That's what they do to her as a punishment for what she did to Snow White. And oh my god, it's like, can you imagine if Disney had the balls to depict something like that? That would have been epic. And you'd have felt so vindicated in her punishment in seeing that. But of course Disney aren't going to do that, because of the fact that they're too cowardly to do anything like that after having done something as amazing as, you know, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. I mean, actually, that would be interesting if they ever did The Hunchback of Notre Dame in live action. Who are they going to hire to do Frollo? And are they ever going to do something as risque as that? I just pray to God they don't ever do those awful gargoyles. They learn their lesson. Don't put the gargoyles in if they ever do that. But so, oh God, this is going to be an absolute disaster, guys. I'm sort of tempted to see it just for the lols of it, because it's just going to be the most ridiculous, I think. I didn't bother to watch the Little Mermaid because I could tell it was going to be awful, and from what I saw of it, it was my expectations were met, should I say, on that one. I mean, what was that awful song that they decided? I mean, who heard that and said, yes, let's put that in the film? A film that was, you know, iconic for its music. Let's put this awful song sung by someone who sounds like they've got a sore throat and are strangling a cat at the same time. Seriously, oh my God, who thought that was a good idea? And they thought, yes, that's going to catch on. Someone singing like they've got a sore throat and strangling a cat at the same time. Or should I say a cat with a sore throat? Oh my God, it just... And then, seriously, it's mind-blowing what these people do. It must be deliberate. I mean, you know, some people are saying they think it's deliberate. I have to agree. I think they're doing this deliberately. They want to destroy the Disney franchise. They want to destroy it for some reason. I don't know what. I don't know what that reason is. I mean, I cannot see any benefit in them destroying Disney. I mean, if they wanted to destroy the Disney company, they could have just simply, you know, shut it down, and you know, you'd lose just about as much money with less effort. It's incredible. I can't fathom why these people are so incapable of understanding what they're doing. It's like, how can you be so blind? Like, even a blind person could see that that is not what Disney wanted to create. He wanted to create a studio where the art of animation was his crowning glory. Apparently, Snow White was his crowning jewel of his empire. He never was able to create anything that he was as proud of as Snow White. Every other film never hit the mark for him, because it was, despite the fact that he was still proud of all his other films, he was never as proud as he ever was of Snow White, because Snow White was his crowning glory. He was never able to beat it. So now they've gone from that to, you know, they've gone past scraping the bottom of the barrel. They're down into down into the ground now. The barrel doesn't have a bottom. They're digging down past the ground. They're now burying themselves. I just don't understand what the logic is. What is the logic? What are you trying to gain from this? How do you think this is going to earn you anything? You're losing money. How is this good? This is going to be very interesting to watch. I think I may watch this. Obviously not. I'm not going to go to the cinema and pay for it. I'm going to wait for it to come out, and then I'm going to probably watch it, or at least try to watch it. I mean, there have been some films where I couldn't even get past through 5 minutes of it. I struggled to get through the Mary Poppins film, the second Mary Poppins film. I struggled to get past that one. I mean, that aside, but there have been so many bad films lately that I've just been, you know, I've kind of lost hope in Hollywood. Hollywood right now is just collapsing under itself because of the fact that, you know, you've got the scandal that of them trying desperately to bury this film, The Sound of Freedom, which apparently is blowing up in America. Unfortunately, there is nowhere to watch it here in England, so we're just probably going to have to wait until that comes out online. Probably Angel Studios probably has it, I don't know. But we'll just have to wait for that to come out and see it, because there's nowhere in England is showing it here, that I know of anyway. So we're going to have to wait for that to come out, and, you know, the scandal of all that, of how all the elites are basically trying desperately to bury it, because of the fact that I think they, you know, you wouldn't try and bury something if you haven't got something to hide yourself, frankly. It's very suspect, that. I mean, anyone who's basically saying it's a load of bollocks is basically got something to hide, guys. Frankly, I think the FBI should be investigating people who are trying to bury this film, because frankly, I think there's something suspect going on there. You know, anyone who basically stands up and says this film is a load of bollocks, maybe the FBI should investigate them, because it's like, well, what is it? The lady doth protest too much, I think. You know, as the saying goes. Something is a little bit suspect there. And so apart from that, I'm just saying, you know, that plus, you know, Disney and all its failings, and, you know, the writer's strikes, and apparently the actor strikes now because of this AI thing. It's, oh boy, it's just, it's imploding, guys. It's just, in a way, it in itself is entertaining to watch, in a way, because of the fact that, you know, so many people have been struggling in Hollywood to the point where maybe Hollywood needs to destroy itself in order to excuse me, in order to restart. It needs a restart. It needs to be cleansed of all the you know, the hypocrisy and the woke agenda nonsense and all this stuff. It needs to be cleansed of all this in order to start again, and to start working properly again. Either that, or basically what we need to do is we need to just cut Hollywood off completely and start afresh, you know, start a new Hollywood somewhere else, with people who are not corrupt, and people who are willing to hire people who have every right to play whatever role they want to play, and to not be shamed by one person who thinks they have the right to speak for everyone else just because they're rich. In the next video, I may actually do a film review of some other live-action Snow Whites, that if you want to see them, yeah, I would recommend, if you want to see live-action Snow Whites, there are plenty of live-action Snow Whites to choose from. They're obviously not going to be great Hollywood productions, but they're still out there. I mean, I think we need to remember that there is another Snow White that actually came out a few years ago. There was obviously Snow White and the Huntsman, in which case she was actually quite a badass in that. You know, she was she went and fought for her kingdom. She went up against the Queen. She fought against the Queen. So you can't hardly say that Snow White wasn't a strong, independent woman who didn't need a man. There you go. And also, I'm just curious, like, how is Snow White going to be defeated by the evil queen if she doesn't eat the apple and if the curse doesn't involve a kiss of true love? How is she going to defeat the queen? How is Snow White going to be Snow White if A, she's not white as snow, B, she doesn't have the 7 dwarfs, and C, she doesn't have a prince to save her from the apple? What exactly is going to happen if the prince isn't going to be the one to save her? Is it going to be one of the dwarfs? The dwarves, should I say? Is she going to fall in love with one of the 7 magical creatures? Is that what's going to happen? She's going to fall in love with one of the 7 magical creatures, or maybe maybe they're going to really go progressive, and she's going to fall in love with the one female magical creature, and it's going to be a lesbian relationship, and it's going to be the female who kisses her. Who knows? She doesn't need a man after all, does she? She just needs a woman. So, hang on, cup of tea. So that's going to be interesting to watch. Lots of questions that are coming up now when I think about it. It doesn't make any sense. But anyway, I certainly do recommend, if you want to go and see a live-action Snow White that is considerably better than this nonsense, then I would suggest maybe seeing, what was it, the one that had the actress from Erin Brockovich, Julia Roberts, that was it. Yeah, so Julia Roberts. I would say I would recommend either watch the Julia Roberts version or the Kristen Stewart version if you want to see a live-action Snow White. I mean, they're not great, should I say. They're not great films in and of themselves, but they are going to be considerably better than this. I mean, first of all, they would have cast an actual white person for the role of Snow White. And yeah, they are both, I would say, both and actually both of those films, the Snow White in both of those films are pretty, is pretty badass. In both of those films, she fights. So you can hardly say that they're being progressive because of the fact that she's going to fight against tyranny. I mean, they've already done this. They've already done it. The problem is, I think the problem is that they know that they've already done this. So they're trying to think of some way of changing it up. It's like, how do we change Snow White? We've already done Snow White being a badass and fighting for herself and, you know, fighting for the kingdom and everything else. And it's like, we've already done that. So why don't we, I don't know, stir the pot a bit by just changing this color of her skin and changing the casting of the dwarves and piss people off that way? That'll get some attention, won't it? Yeah, so yeah, you're definitely going to get attention, but you're going to get the wrong kind of attention, and people are just not going to want to go and see it. So frankly, you're just wasting your own time and money. Another sip of tea. But yeah, definitely I would say, guys, if you wanted to go and watch a Snow White adaptation, there are plenty of live action adaptations out there that you can watch. I mean, I used to watch, there was an adaptation of Snow White that I used to watch as a little girl, in which Vincent Price, he was playing the Mirror, and actually I used to love it as a little girl because it was a very simple production, but it was so fun. I used to love it. You know, sometimes the simpler the thing, the more fun it is. And actually, I just enjoyed it because it was like going to the theatre for me. And I thought it was so funny that the Queen's comeuppance at the end was I just thought it was hilarious. They say that at the end that her mirror is cursed at the end and she can't see her reflection in it anymore. And it's so funny. Her reaction is just hilarious. She just starts tantruming on the floor and it's hilarious. She just goes into a meltdown. Yeah, there are definitely better versions of Snow White than this that I would recommend you go and look up, because there's no point in wasting your time with Disney anymore. Disney doesn't care. You might as well just, you know, you could make your own adaptation of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and it would probably be better than Disney. Even if it was cheaper, it would probably be better simply because you guys would probably be able to, you'd be willing to make it accurately. You know, I would sooner see a fan-made film than Disney films these days, because at least they're going to be accurate. So, yeah, hell, I would promote it. Go and make your own version of Snow White. Get a bunch of friends together. Find some dwarf actors out there and get them to do a cheap fan-made film of Snow White, and I bet you will get more attraction for your film than Disney ever will. Go on, let's show Disney up and go and make your own Snow White films. Go and make your own fairy tale films, guys. Come on, let's show Disney up and just show that you don't need all this woke nonsense in order to make a big film. You know, if people would sooner watch a fan-made version of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs with actual dwarves in them, then you've got yourself a production there. So anyway, I'm gonna leave you guys, and I will see you in the next video. Like I said, I will probably be doing a Snow White review video, so if you're interested in that, stay tuned. So I'll see you guys in the next video, guys. Bye.